Hello again, I am Blunty, and we all know Nintendo love their gimmicks, don't they? Now, let's be clear here with that word, gimmick. A lot of people use it as a pejorative and dismissively, but I'm talking about it in broader terms. Technological gimmicks that serve more than simply attracting attention, but also long-term enhance unique function. But in the case of the Nintendo Switch 2's Joy-Con's new gimmick, it is a long way from being unique to gaming, but quite unique to console gaming, and that's the difference maker. We are, of course, talking about the built-in mouse mode, of course, but the thumbnail and title probably already queued that up for me, didn't it? And hey, this ain't TikTok, I'm allowed to indulge in some sensible narrative structure, okay? Okay. I'm curious, please do let me know in a comment. Name your top 3 games you think that mouse control will truly enhance for you, like in a proper, serious way, on the Nintendo Switch 2. Cyberpunk sits at the top of my list for that one. But yeah, before someone well actuallys me, the other current gen consoles can support mouse and indeed keyboard gameplay. It is also extremely rarely used, like a fraction of games actually support it, because it relies on users having to purchase and provide their own mouse and keyboard hardware and plug it into the device, and spending development time on a feature for your game that a fraction of your users will even notice exists, much less use, is not something many devs tend to bother with. In fact, the only time we ever really see it is in cross-platform games where they've already designed mouse and keyboard for PC anyway, so they just slap it on as an option for the consoles. Outside of that, name me a game that has mouse and keyboard support that is a console exclusive. I can't think of any off the top of my head. But yeah, the difference maker here is, of course, it's a native feature on the Switch 2. Default to each and every last Switch 2 owner. Devs can rely on that feature being available to them and can make their games use it, in full confidence that it will serve 100% of the player base. At least for now. I mean, it's plausible. A Switch 2 Lite might come along and cripple the controller's functional options available by default, much like the Switch 1's Lite model did. But that's kind of a what-if scenario we're not really going to dwell on today. The point is, of course, Nintendo are the first to get serious about delivering a precision pointing device option as a default controller option, as standard in the box. No fuss, no muss, it's there all the time for everybody. And no, I in absolutely zero ways consider motion-assisted aiming from gyros and whatnot a precision pointing option. It's just not. So, let's bite in proper, shall we? The new Joy-Con's mouse mode is very literally using the exact same technology you'll find in standard PC mice for quite some time now. It's an optical sensor capable of tracking a precise movement, speed, and direction on a variety of surfaces, even your leg if needs must. But yeah, to use mouse mode, you've got to turn the whole thing on its side to do so, something it's not ergonomically designed to do, really. The shoulder buttons become left and right mouse buttons, the face buttons become thumb buttons, and the analog stick, well, it remains accessible, although I have concerns about the practicality of those ergonomics. Hopefully most devs restrict themselves in mouse mode to only using the face buttons and maybe the stick for quick directional flicks, if at all. But overall, I am personally excited to have mouse aim available as standard on the console. But the big concern I have is, of course, those ergonomics. Though they are larger and heavier than the original Joy-Con controllers and apparently have been sort of weighted a little bottom heavy on their side to help mouse mode work a little bit better, they still are quite slim and hardly conforming to the common swooping kind of half bulb shape that has evolved through decades now of standard mouse design as the most comfortable and popular option. And if you're like me, and just happen to have large hands, I mean, they're not gigantic, but they're large, you're probably a little extra worried about how fiddly it'll all feel, sort of edge on, table down like that, with less than ideal main button placement for the traditional two-finger left and right grip that a lot of us have had muscle memory trained into us for literally decades of PC gaming. Especially in things where the right button is ADS and the left button is fire. Those two shoulder buttons are quite close together for that, aren't they? But I'm mostly concerned about the edge-on thing. And which is why I'm absolutely sure we'll see more than a few options from third-party accessory makers to accommodate this. And I know this because, well, we're already starting to see it, because just like when the Switch 1 launched, it's hobbyists and makers and 3D printers who are already looking into solving the issue with things like 3D print designs for ergonomic enhancement. Pretty much as soon as this mouse feature was suspected, never mind confirmed, 3D printing hobbyists got to work imagining designs to enhance it. Most already out there are simple concepts like basic drop-in or snap-on grips, much like we first saw with the grips and clips for the Switch 1's Joy-Cons in the early days, a few of which I even printed up myself to try out back in the day. But some are way more ambitious and very clever. The Switch 2 mouse expansion shell version 1, for example, is a complete housing shell, top and bottom, encompassing the Joy-Con 2. It's even designed with attachment posts between the two halves of the shell that can accommodate small magnets to secure the shell together in a fast and easy way. It has pass-through posts and caps for all of the face buttons, including the function buttons for home and the new chat button, and it'll access well for the analog stick. Everything you need to remain fully and completely functional, but also give you a traditional mouse shape. But in this version 1, the overall shape of the back shell, I think, needs some smoothing out for even better feel in the palm. Those seem like kind of hard edges back there. But conceptually, this is so damn clever. Now, of course, this design might not be all that useful for games that want to regularly swap between regular mode and mouse mode, because we've already seen some games like Metroid, for example, that can seamlessly go between mouse mode and sort of regular Joy-Con mode just by lifting up the mouse or putting it down. It instantly and seamlessly switches between those two modes. So for a show like this, that's obviously not going to work very well. But for games that you can fully indulge in with mouse mode alone, it will be fantastic. And I'd expect both the simple clip-in designs and overall shells like this one to keep evolving in the maker space through launch, and inevitably a few of the third-party brands and manufacturers will copycat and basically pinch these ideas and just produce some stuff you can get off the shelf. I'd also not expect to wait very long before some kind of dedicated mouse controller has arrived for a separate purchase. Like literally just a third-party Joy-Con in a mouse shell, so right off the shelf. And I'd expect at least some of those options to be perhaps paired with a left-hand option, possibly something like the kinds of things we've seen Razer do with their, what's the damn thing called? the Tartarus controller. That was it, wasn't it? That thing. Although at that point, yeah, maybe you're going a bit nuts for a console game. I don't know, but I'd bet there's at least a small market for that kind of stuff. Considering how much gaming I do and the fact I'm a content creator, I'd probably get one, just out of pure curiosity alone. The mouse shells, though, yeah, they're easily going to be a few options out there on shelves pretty soon, hopefully in time for launch. Now, I don't have a 3D printer anymore. I lucked out when the original Switch was launching. I happened to be reviewing a 3D printer at the same time as it launched, so they sort of lined up for me. But that cheapo build-it-yourself one that I did review like 8 years back, well, that imploded itself a few years back. It blew up its own power supply and took a few other components with it. So yeah, I don't have a 3D printer these days, but I have reached out to at least one 3D printer brand, and I'll probably try one or two more to see about a collaboration or a sponsorship or something with an eye towards showing off the inevitable flood of useful, or indeed silly, Switch 2 accessories people design for 3D printing. The Switch 1 got a lot of love from makers. So hopefully that pans out and I get some sort of hook up there, but still, even if not, I'm very much anticipating needing something to make the mouse mode better. As I suspect quite strongly that using the Joy-Con, raw dog style, for mousing, given my hand size, will likely come with a little cramping. And if not cramping, at the very least, fatigue. But of course there is also a third option, isn't there? Outside of add-on grips and shells or even dedicated Switch 2 mouse accessories. And that's just, well, a normal mouse, like a USB mouse. The Switch 2, like the Switch 1 before it, can and will fully support a standard USB keyboard for typing, not for gaming. And I've often used that for when I'm streaming Pokemon games, for example. We often have gimmicks where I let the chat name our newly caught Pokemon for shits and giggles and stuff. So having a keyboard to make typing faster and easy than the clumsy-ass on-screen keyboards has saved me a lot of frustration over the years doing that much, at least. But what if the Switch 2 pushed that idea out further and supported just a standard USB mice? Might be an issue that commonly these mice only have 2 thumb buttons, not the 4 that the face buttons represent on the Switch 2 Joy-Cons. And while a scroll wheel is usually clickable, so that's 1 more button, and can provide 2 directional inputs, up and down scrolling, that still leaves 2 more directional inputs unaccounted for from the thumbstick, and at least 1 face button, never mind home and chat. But still, for some games, maybe that's a limitation that won't be a functional problem. Just a thought. And then, of course, there's also the fact that the Switch 2's mouse mode does something literally no other mouse can do, and that's combine its accelerometer input with the mouse mode to give us a twisting motion combined with the regular 2-dimensional flat mouse movement. I'd bet on very few games actually using that, though. I feel like that one's a gimmick in the derisive sense. Because try for yourself. Grab your mouse and try twisting your wrist and moving your mouse around at the same time. It doesn't feel right, does it? And I bet you that's going to be very fatiguing on your wrist if a game uses it extensively. It's all right for a little sort of mini golf game they demo it with, just to prove that it works. But yeah, I don't think that's going to be something a lot of devs rely on using. But all this means, of course, nothing but good things for gaming on the Switch too. It is a big deal for fast-paced shooters, for point-and-clicks, of course, for RTS stuff, for strategy games, things like SimCity, Civilization, The Sims themselves. Which, by the way, to this day, if you played The Sims on the PC, like Sims 4, it doesn't work with a controller at all. You have to use a mouse. I found that out when the ROG Ally launched, and I tried to use The Sims 4 as a review game on it. It was very awkward to try and use that with the emulated mouse from the sticks. But anyway, the mouse is an important thing for a lot of different kinds of games. Creative games where tile precision, placement of objects, and stuff like that really matters. And it's not just about fine accuracy, which, with patience, you can get that with sticks. You move them slowly and stuff. If they're nice and sensitive enough, you can precision move things around. But with a mouse, it's fast, it's natural, it's instinctive, and above all else, it's sustainable and repeatable accuracy over a very long time with low fatigue. And nothing beats a mouse for that. So yeah, hashtag mouse superiority, man. But yeah, that's the story here. That's what I wanted to talk about today. Mouse mode is more than a cool trick. It's part of a smarter, more comfortable, more flexible set of options for gaming on a console that nobody else has done. And again, when I say that, I mean nobody else has done by default. Of course, you can go as far back as the Super Nintendo, which did have a mouse accessory. But I feel like I've been clear about what I mean when I say, nobody else is doing this on consoles. So I'm going to ask you again, what game, what's your top 3 games that you are most excited to try with a mouse mode on console on the Switch 2? Drop a comment, glance at that like button on your way down, think about giving it a little tippity tap, a poke, mouse or finger poke, your choice, I'll tell you what. And of course, that subscribe button down there, well, that's begging for you to tickle it too. Who are you to deny its needs? Thank you very much for watching. I am Blunty. I will catch you next time. And of course, thank you so much to the patrons.